First time I realized this was a big deal, it was in the 90s. I was in New York with some friends, and we went to a bar, and the guy checking the licenses looked at my license, saw it said Sedalia, Missouri, and immediately went, "Oh my God, that's the greatest party I've ever been to in my life!" That's when I realized maybe something interesting did happen in my hometown. Yeah.
50 years ago, when Jeff Lujin was 3, the outside world did descend on the Missouri State Fairgrounds in Sedalia for a 3-day would-be Woodstock of the Midwest called the Ozark Music Festival.
When we started putting this together in '73, the industry isn't anything like it is today.
A 27-year-old Chris Fritz was hoping to build on the success of shows he'd promoted at Fairyland Park in Kansas City with partners Sal Brancato and Bob Shaw. Despite ads that ran in Rolling Stone, Sedalia seemed to think a bluegrass festival was on the way. And though some acoustic acts were featured, the biggest names on the bill promised something considerably different.
Aerosmith, REO, and Leonard Skinner, Tower Power, Seeger, Nugent, and the Eagles.
The advertising worked too well. Carloads of young rock fans poured in from every state in the Union, far more than the 50,000 tickets that were sold.
We were thinking that the good number was going to be 40 to 50. You know, the fairgrounds had lots of people there, 20,000, 25 a day, but they never had something like this where 150,000 people show up and all at once.
The mayhem in mid-Missouri made for great headlines. First, about the amazing turnout, followed by public outrage and plenty of political posturing. But soon, for most of the world, the Ozark Music Festival was quickly forgotten, except by the folks who experienced it firsthand.
Friday, it's all do-to-do, everybody's all happy and cheery and whatever. And then by that afternoon, you already knew that the thing was, it's already just more people are just keep coming and coming and coming. There's motorcycles and cars and people yelling, cops, and just drug dealers yelling right here, acid. And you're just everywhere you go, it's just like a giant 3-ring circus.
Everything was sort of overwhelmed. People hunting for water, they were trying to get out of the sun. It was so incredibly hot. My family, we're from the Sedalia area. Every August, we would all pack up and go and visit the fair for a day. And this wasn't a fair crowd. It blew my mind.
Eli Paul is an author and historian now, but at the time, the MU student jumped at the chance to see some of his musical favorites like Marshall Tucker and the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. Unlike most in the crowd, he had a secret weapon. Each night after the show ended, Eli headed to his parents' home in Otterville, then got up and drove back into town to soak up another day of music, dust, and deprivation.
We got 125,000 souls.
I was 19, so I wasn't smart enough to be afraid of anything. Now, we did hear, there's biker gangs over there. You stay away from there. It's like, okay.
Not only is it 100, with the sun just beaming right here, but the body heat from all these people, it was another 40 degrees hotter, it seemed like. You'd just be like, oh my God, this is just crazy.
Everyone wants to compare it to Woodstock, but Woodstock had a political theme that's more or less absent here. I think the intention was to let's cut loose, and they did. The heat was certainly a factor, but I think it was like, let's get as wild as we can, and taking all your clothes off certainly is a step in that direction. It certainly got the attention of people in Sedalia. Going into Kentucky Fried Chicken naked isn't normal for Sedalia.
Public nudity wasn't the festival's only outrageous aspect. Open-air drug markets, including one in the tunnel leading down to the stages, did brisk business after law enforcement chose a policy of containment over confrontation. One person died during the weekend, and medics treated what seemed like an endless cycle of overdoses and heat-related emergencies.
Were there moments where you kind of like, oh my God, what have I done?
I think just the work ethic and the stuff going on, you know, is, and you have to put the show on. P.T. Barnum was my idol. I mean, that guy was the best promoter ever in the world. No matter what happened, the show must go on.
And it did. But by Sunday evening, as America sang the last notes of A Horse with No Name, mountains of trash covered the grounds. Porta potties and golf carts had been bashed and burned, and one of the promoters had been hospitalized. With death threats coming fast and furious, Chris Fritz hopped on a chopper for a wild ride back to Kansas City. He was told not to return.
So this was the last of the really uncontrolled, crazy festivals. Never again was this going to be allowed to happen without the right security, without the right preparations, you know. And I think everyone was caught unawares. So many of the people I've interviewed for the film are gone, you know, the sheriff, all the politicians. I mean, it's just a lot of times passed.
I should have taken a camera. I should have taken a notebook. And if we'd had SPF 50, I should have taken that for sunscreen.
It's just a shame it couldn't have happened, you know, something similar. It's a shame it was too successful, actually, because I think if it would have been about half, well, maybe not even half.
Would you have thought 50 years ago you'd still be kind of doing this stuff?
Well, I was hoping I'd make it to 50.
I can see why people would come away and just, this is the worst thing that ever happened, because, you know, they lived through a different festival than I did. This was one of the greatest experiences of my life.